Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in this video I want to talk about the early days of my transition. And when I use the word transition, I mean coming to terms with being trans myself. Um, Unlike a lot of media stories that we see about transgender individuals, I did not know when I was a child. Um, I don't ever recall feeling or telling my parents that I was a boy or that I felt like I was in the wrong body uh, when I was really young. I remember being tomboyish in the sense that I wanted to play sports and I was playing with toy cars with my older cousin, things like that, but I never felt like I was meant to be a boy. I had a moment 5, 6 years ago where I suddenly started questioning my gender and how I identified with myself. I was in a relationship with a woman at the time, and in the lesbian world, there are often stereotypes placed on different individuals, and I mean, like, in the crudest terms, femme or butch. And you know, in my head at the time, I guess I felt like, well, maybe I'm not the girly type of lesbian, maybe I'm more butch. And so 5, 6 years ago, I think that happened in my head, and so I learned how to be butch. um, I wasn't thinking about it a whole lot then. It was just kind of this, minute thing, and it didn't seem like it lasted very long. And then 3 or 4 years ago, uh, it came back, uh, questioning myself started again, and I think it was sort of triggered when Chaz Bono came out. I remember reading about his story and started doing a lot more reading online about transgender issues, transgender stories. I started going on chat sites and started exploring my own gender and what gender meant to me. Uh, it became this all-consuming thing in my life. I became obsessed with gender. I feel like there was not a minute of my life then that I did not think about my own gender and what that meant to me and what it meant to my partner at the time, it was a different person from the first time I had this little moment. Um, this time it did not go away. It started getting worse and worse, and I could not get out of my head. I remember daily being online, reading, watching videos. When I wasn't doing that, I was just plain thinking about it. It was really hard for me. That was a really hard period of my life. I realized that I needed help and reached out to a support program that I have at my work to access counseling. The lady that I saw, very nice, psychologist, she was upfront in saying that she had no experience dealing with gender dysphoria or trans-related issues. Not that I felt that I was trans at the time, but you know what I'm saying. So she helped me with short-term things like helping with my anxiety and just trying to stay a bit calmer with myself. And then I had a conversation with my family doctor, and she had never had a patient who had gender dysphoria, so she was new to this as well. So I asked her for a prescription, thinking that I would need to access a private psychologist. And so, for insurance purposes, I thought that I would need that. So I left her office with that prescription, and she actually called me a few hours later and had conversations with her colleagues and found out that there's actually a sexologist who works with our healthcare system who sees trans patients. So she referred me to her, and within 4 to 5 weeks, I saw her for the first time, which was huge. If anyone's ever accessed mental health help in Canada, most places, I think it takes a long time. So for me to see her within 5 to 6 weeks was amazing. I was so grateful, and it turns out that she actually prioritizes trans individuals because she understands how urgent it could be. So she was a huge help. When I first started seeing her, I did not identify as transgender. I just knew that I felt very, very confused. I had a lot of doubt as to my gender identity and felt very uncomfortable with being labeled female, and that's all I knew then. I don't know if it was denial or reluctance or an inability to identify as trans, but I know that then I wasn't there. So I saw her for a year, and it was a huge, huge help. At that time, I had started speaking about my difficulties with my partner, and it was really, really difficult for her as well. She was not supportive in the sense that she struggled, and so we both struggled with that. So it was huge for me to go to a place where I felt safe in exploring what gender meant to me and how to express myself and be true to myself. I also started telling 2 or 3 of my closest friends, and that was really huge too, because you have little moments in your life where something happens, like someone perceives you as male, and that was a huge deal for me back then, and it was nice to have those few people that I could share that with and then be supportive or excited or just not even just being positive about it, because whenever I would express that to my partner, it became a fight. It became a negative experience for both of us, and so it was really difficult for me to explore myself at home because of that. And just for the record, I don't hold that against her. I don't think that she's a bad individual. I just think that it was beyond her scope of being. We tried. She tried. She came to a couple of my therapy sessions with me. And actually, now that we are split up, because we split up this spring, she's come a long way towards accepting me as transgender. We still talk every once in a while. And after we separated, she made a lot of progress that way. So, yeah, I don't hold that against her. So, another thing that was a huge help for me was I had a conversation with a lady that I worked with, a coworker, who actually worked as a counselor in our mental health support system at work, and she said that it's normal for an individual who goes through an intense period of change in their life to experience doubt and confusion and denial, anger, sadness, grief, there's a normal period when change happens, and she described it as a sort of bell curve, and it might be denial or anger at first, and then it sort of becomes confusion, doubt, exploration, and then acceptance and being okay with that change, embracing that change. So that really helped me progress through my confusion and doubt and grief and sadness and anger, because at first, when I first started seeing my therapist especially, I felt this sense of urgency to come to terms with whatever it was I was dealing with. I felt like I needed to decide whether I was transgender. I needed to decide whether I was going to come out. If I was I going to start testosterone? Do I change my name? Like, I felt like I need to do something, and I wasn't ready. I was not there, and it was a huge conflict for me. So once I realized that it was okay and normal, for me anyway, to experience those feelings, then it became a bit easier. I tried really hard to focus on my day-to-day things instead of constantly being in my head thinking about it. So I started focusing more on my volunteer work, hobbies, my work, my relationships with my friends and my partner at the time, and it helped a little bit. I won't lie, it was still really hard, but it became a little bit easier once I accepted that that was the period that I was going through. So my therapist went on maternity leave in December of 2013. At that point, I had been seeing her for a year, and I remember having conversations in one of our last appointments and telling her that I was okay with not being able to see her once she was on leave. I felt like I had made enough progress with her during that year to be okay by myself. So that spring I remember a lot of epiphanies, all of a sudden I'd feel very male one day and, would be happy about that, and I really made a lot of progress towards accepting myself as a gender variant individual, and the way I identify myself became more concrete for me. And I also chose my new name, Michael. I had been kind of debating off and on about what name to pick, and I chose Michael because it is very different from my birth name, but it is a derivative of the middle name that my parents gave me, and I spelt it with a K because I'm Francophone, and it was important for me to have a name that was pronounceable both in French and English. So Michael in French, Michael in English, because I live in an Anglophone speaking province. And yeah, once I picked my name, things became more concrete for me. I guess before that I hadn't truly let go of my past self, my past name, or whatever you want to call it. And once I settled on Michael, it was almost like I had a fresh slate. My birth name had all these experiences and expectations and roles placed on me, my old self. I'm avoiding using pronouns now. And Michael was a new starting point for me. And so instead of trying to shed past roles that I was trying to get rid of, I was able to develop new ideas about myself with my new name, and that was a really big help for me. So in end of April, my partner and I decided to go our separate ways. she was unable or unwilling to call me Michael, and it became a very negative thing for both of us, and we were both very unhappy in our relationship. So we mutually decided to go our separate ways, and that was huge for me. When she moved out and I found myself alone, and once I moved beyond the grief of our relationship being over, because we were together almost 4 years, I felt liberated. I felt like I could finally be Michael at home and explore what that meant for me on my own, and surround myself with supportive, accepting individuals, my friends mostly. And that was huge. That happened in May, and I came out to everybody in July. My family, my coworkers, my friends, the other members of the volunteer organization that I'm part of. And the best way I can describe it is, a slingshot. I was sitting in the pocket, where you put the rock or whatever, and the handle kept moving away, further and further away from me, and I was stuck here. And as soon as I found myself alone with my new name, it just let go, and I flung forward into wanting to come out, wanting to start my physical transition, wanting to live as Michael. So I came out in July. I made appointments with a general practitioner in the city who sees trans patients, and I booked my top surgery. I started testosterone in September, and I had my top surgery in October. So yeah, once I came to terms with being trans and being Michael, things happened really fast for me. This video is really long. I just want to say that for those of you who are in that stage of doubt and confusion, know that it's not abnormal, it's not wrong, it's okay to be confused about who you are. And I'm 30 years old, by the way. It's happening more and more where people are coming out as trans now in their teenage years, and there's a few of us left who are only coming to that realization later in life. I know a guy who just came out and he's 58, so be patient with yourself and be gentle with yourself, and know that it's okay to have doubts about who you are and how to express yourself and how to identify in terms of gender, and blow out of that box that was placed on us by others because of our body. So yeah, I hope this made sense, and I hope this has been helpful for others. And I'm going to make more videos about other experiences that I've gone through. So cheers, everybody.